How's it going, guys? Hank here, back at it again with another short video on the Review and Preview Sports YouTube channel. And folks, as always, I want to give you a friendly neighborhood reminder. If you want to find us on all of our social medias, you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Review and Preview Sports. And of course, if you want to see some more short videos like this, please do not forget to hit that big red button down below. Give us a subscribe, give us a like, and of course, give us a comment for the news of the day. And this video, we're going to be talking about a few moves that the New York Mets have made to bolster their pitching. The first one they made was last night. Last night, they traded for Chris Bassitt, who was a pitcher for the Oakland A's, for minor league prospects JT Ginn and Adam Oller. Now, since Ginn is one of their top 10 prospects in their minor league system, this is a trade that could potentially be high risk, high reward, especially if Bassitt doesn't pan out. But having said that, this was also a trade the Mets needed to make. You look at their starting rotation. You got Jacob deGrom. You've got Max Scherzer at 1 and 2, which on paper is a formidable 1-2 punch. But then you look at the bottom half of the rotation. You have Taijuan Walker, who showed some flashes of decency during the first half of the season, but over the course of the second half, he proved that he could not quite be the a legitimate number 2 or number 3 pitcher in the rotation. So it was obvious that the Mets needed more depth. And of course, you also had Tyler Miguel, David Peterson, and Carlos Carrasco rounding out that rotation. Neither of whom are true number 3 options either. So obviously the Mets needed some pitching depth. And considering this is a team that's trying to go for it all this year, it's a move that definitely makes sense. And let's look at Chris Bassitt's career. This is a guy who, for the first 4 or 5 years of his career, kind of had it rough because he dealt with numerous injuries, but after he recovered from his Tommy John surgery in 2017, 2018, he ended up doing pretty well. His career numbers since then, 29 and 14 with a 3.23 ERA and 396 strikeouts. And this is also not a guy who keeps his walk totals down pretty low. So, in other words, the Mets are getting a pitcher who isn't really a power strikeout pitcher, but he's a pitcher that, gets outs by contact. He's more of like a ground ball pitcher. So, in other words, a decent number 3 guy, and someone can definitely get you the outs that you need. And again, since you already have deGrom and Scherzer at number 1 and 2, so you don't necessarily need to trade for an ace. They just needed like a number 3 guy, and that's exactly what they're getting. But as I said, considering one of the prospects that they traded was top 10, it could also be seen as a risk if this doesn't pan out well. But the way I see it, I like this trade for the New York Mets. And now for the other move that they made, they have signed Adam Ottavino, who, as a Yankee fan, I am very familiar with, especially because he pitched in my division for the past 3 years. First with the Yankees in 2019, 2020, and then for the Red Sox in 2021. Signed him to a 1-year, $4 million contract. Now, Ottavino has had a pretty good track record as a good relief pitcher for the Colorado Rockies and the Yankees, but then after a 2020 season where he really only had one bad outing, and that was a game where he gave up a lot of runs in a game against the Toronto Blue Jays, that high ERA scared the Yankees into essentially salary dumping him and trade to the Red Sox. And as far as what he did with the Red Sox, his numbers were decent, not really anything to write home about. 7-3 with a 4.21 ERA, but he's a guy who essentially will give the Mets some depth in their bullpen, and I think is definitely a guy who was a good replacement signing after the loss of Jerry Familia. So now you look at the Mets in their bullpen, he will join guys like Edwin Diaz, Trevor May, Seth Lugo, and Miguel Castro. I think the bullpen definitely also looks improved for the New York Mets. That being said, I also think they aren't necessarily done yet in that department. I think they could really use a lefty pitcher. especially with the loss of, especially as someone who could replace Aaron Loop, who went to the Angels as a free agent shortly before the lockout. But with that being said, in all things considered, I think the Mets did a fairly decent job in their first post-lockout moves to improve the strength of their pitching. I think, again, it makes sense that the Mets could make them. They're trying to go all in, and they've got a decent lineup. We'll see how many more moves Steve Cohen and company will make to try to improve their chances at a World Series. And hey, looking at their current roster, if all goes right, they definitely could compete for the National League East, especially if Atlanta loses Freddie Freeman to free agency. But that's all I really have today with regards to the New York Mets and the Major League Baseball trades and free agency. And folks, once again, thank you for tuning into this video. If you'd like to find us on all of our social medias, you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Review and Preview Sports. And of course, if you want to see more short videos like this, please don't forget to hit that big red button down below. Give us a like. Give us a comment. What do you think? Did the Mets improve their pitching? Do you think the Mets are the team to beat in the National League East? Or do you still think they have more move to make? I'll talk to you guys later. But until next time, this is Hank and Dichter, and I will see you for another Major League Baseball offseason short video.